Hey everybody, it's Phil J. Palacios here with my good friend Erin Cecilia Thomas. And today we are going to be talking about getting a book published. Actually, her getting her book published more specifically. So Erin, what is it like getting a book published? What do you have to go through?
Well, so it's been a long process. So I Watched You from the Ocean Floor is a short story collection. The novel manuscript that you read, I sent out for a long time to agents with no luck, and then kind of set that one aside, wrote a new novel, sent that one out to agents with no luck, and in the meantime was working on all these short stories, which a handful were published in smaller literary journals.
I'm just gonna say, okay, she's being modest. I remember this. It would literally be like every other month. She'd be like, oh, hey, look, I got published in this magazine. Oh, hey, look, I got published in this.
There were times where it would be like a handful at a time, and then there were times where it would be kind of radio silence for months. So, yeah, it's just strange how it happens. A lot of other writer friends of mine are going through similar things now where they'll submit a story to journals, and sometimes they'll hear back within days with an acceptance. Right. Sometimes they'll hear back within months of a rejection. It's really, really hit or miss. A couple of my very favorite stories from this collection were out on submission and were rejected more than 25 times.
Don't you love that?
And then suddenly somebody would like it. Probably the biggest, kind of the widest read journal that one of my stories was published in is the Alaska Quarterly Review. And that story, The Shed, was probably rejected more than any of my other stories. And then finally, the editor of that one specific magazine just saw something in it. So it's so random, it seems, and it just takes like that one person to like something specific in it. But you also never know, how close your work was to being chosen over something else. Right. They could have been at the very, very top of the pile, but one other story just like barely beats it out, and they don't have time to send you that explanation.
Right.
So all you get is kind of the what do you call it?
Quick rejection?
Yeah, like with no reasoning or like personal, whatever feedback. You just get a no. So you think, oh, they hated it.
Right.
But that's usually not the case.
I think it's important with what you just said, where it is whatever you're writing, getting published specifically, it can just depend on the right person. And like you said, it's all about timing, and I think not giving up, especially if you put in the work and you are dedicated to the craft. There is an audience, it just needs to be the right person who believes in the work.
So that's where my my publisher, Catherine Fay of Modern Artist Press, really came in. So that's how this book happened, was I wasn't submitting this collection anywhere, and she happened across one of the stories in this collection online in a journal that it had been previously published in, and she just reached out to me and said, do you have more? Do you have a novel? Do you have a story collection? And I sent her a novel manuscript I was working on as well as the story collection, and she said, I really, really love the stories. And so that's kind of how this happened, and that is very much not the usual case. Usually publishers are not going to reach out specifically to a brand new writer who hasn't published a book before. It was just kind of the right place, right time. I was very, very, very fortunate that she happened to see the story, happened to like it. I happened to have a collection kind of ready to go.
And you happen to be good at writing.
And we happen to kind of have the same taste and the same kind of values. She, her press is a brand new press, woman owned, woman run. She's very much about championing more underrepresented kind of writers, women writers, writers of color, BIPOC writers, LGBTQ writers, writers who are discussing kind of more unspoken kind of topics in their writing. So kind of just our values lined up and everything kind of just the stars aligned, which I'm like so lucky because that usually doesn't happen.
So she started this publishing company like recently, like
within the past couple of years. Yeah.
Wow, that is young.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been a dream. It's been an absolute dream.
But see, it just takes that one person.
Yeah. Thanks, Catherine.
You and I both are novelists by trade. Like we both love writing the big books, like, and the concept of being a novelist. And I think when we both started, we both were working on big books, and then kind of gradually, so like when I did the magazine, I really started focusing on short stories, because honestly, you can't publish giant novels in a magazine at once. It's just, you can do chapters, but then that's a whole other thing that we'll talk about some other time. But specifically short stories, I think, I've personally have come to believe that they make you a better writer. Because number one, they teach you to finish. Because with a big novel, it's just this long, arduous journey over valleys and through forests and over fences. With a short story, you're in a backyard and you can kind of like mow the lawn, water the grass, and it's more manageable and you get better at your craft. So then maybe later on the novel comes. For you, what would you think? Is there a difference with writing a novel to writing a short story for you? And what's that like?
Yeah, I definitely agree that short stories really help you own your craft, and really kind of help you to see a story from start to finish. The way that you can get lost kind of in a novel where you're not really able to see kind of the whole picture. I wrote my first short stories, back in middle school, junior high, and then didn't write for a while, kind of wrote poetry on and off. And then when I decided to turn back to writing, was like, okay, I'm going to write a novel. Trudged through that, finished that manuscript. And then when I decided to go back for my MFA, mostly focused on short stories, kind of at the encouragement of the professors, who, you were allowed to present novel excerpts if you wanted for a workshop, but I just found it much more helpful for critique and for just the learning process to present a full story start to finish, because if you're workshopping the chapter 5 of a novel that nobody has read anything before or after it, sometimes the feedback isn't very helpful, because they're like, well, I didn't understand this, It's like, well, that was explained in the part you didn't read. So it's not always the most helpful. So I definitely recommend for workshop purposes to go in, unless it's a group that you've been workshopping with every week for a long time, who have, kind of read other parts of the novel. But for me, I did maybe my first 3 semesters in my MFA just working on short stories. And then once I was like, okay, I feel like I have this form down. I feel like I learned so much in that program. It's just real obvious things that I would have never thought of because I had never studied writing from anyone. I had just always done it alone in my room. And so at that point I was like, okay, I have the beginning of a novel. I'm going to dedicate the last couple of semesters to working on a novel because I feel like I've got a good batch of short stories. I've really, really learned a lot from working in that shorter form.
Right.
And now I'm ready to take all of those things that I've learned to a bigger work. So yeah, it's so different for everybody. Some people have never written a short story, but can sit down and write a novel, or some people just write short stories. So for me, it even made me see, like, working on stories from beginning to end and workshopping them and editing them, I could then look back at that older novel manuscript and see, oh, these are all the reasons that doesn't work.
Right.
Is because I didn't know what I was doing. It doesn't mean it was all bad, but it's like,
I like to
these are all the things that I could fix.
I call it common sense realized.
Yeah.
Where it is common sense, but creating a world, fictional, fantasy, sci-fi, it doesn't matter. You are creating something from your imagination with words, and that takes a lot of energy, and every now and then you, like I said, you get lost in the sauce, lost in the word soup, as it were, and the little things like, oh yeah, that would have made more sense. And all it takes is one person outside of yourself, and that's where you say going to these groups. Community is one of the most important things that a writer needs. It's important to go off on your own, finish the work, but we need people to, number one, read it, because that's kind of the whole point. And two, though, to actually ask us the questions of, like you said, why? Because if they don't ask us why, then everything in our own head is already makes sense, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense to everyone else. That's the point of communicating. And I think that specifically with getting a group of people or going to take classes, that is a very important part of a journey. Because you do need to be critiqued. As hard and as scary as it can be, it leads to this. Most of the time. Hopefully. Yeah, you'll get there. Trust us. Talk about, what was the program that you were a part of?
The MFA, Lesley University.
All right, so tell me about going and taking your MFA. MFFFA? How was your
It was, so I had kind of been considering going to graduate school for writing since I was in my last semester or so of my undergrad, which was completely different, which was for music. I had always done both music and writing, and once I had gone through 4 years of music school, I was like, kind of missing writing in my life, and missing being in writing class and around other writers. And so I was thinking, well, maybe, I'll graduate and I'll go on to grad school, but maybe I'll do writing. And that was in 2012, and I didn't start my MFA until 2020.
Hindsight is 2020.
So it took a long time to see how that might fit into my life and my goals. I moved around a lot, and then was in Nashville, and there's not very many like local MFA programs in Nashville, and so it was like, should I potentially completely move somewhere for grad school, or should I do a little residency? So I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and eventually just applied to some programs. And then Lesley it's in Boston, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which was like a hybrid program. I talked to the director of the program and some of the teachers, and it just seemed like the very perfect fit. I didn't have to move, but every semester you would go and spend time in Cambridge doing a residency, and the rest of the time was over Zoom or over email with your specifically assigned mentor and your workshop groups. And I didn't really know what to expect, because I had done other like workshops, but never like in this like higher educational setting. And you hear kind of both sides of opinion when it comes to MFAs. Some writers are like, don't do it, all the writers coming out of MFAs sound the same, and some people are like, they're indispensable, you need an MFA. And I understand both of those opinions. For me, and where I was with my writing and what I needed to get better and take it to the next level and eventually be published, and to also build a lot of confidence, which I think I was lacking. It was 100% the right move, the right choice, the right program at the right time for me. I definitely became 100% better writer. Came out with a lot of connections, a lot of writer friends that I still workshop with and talk to, and a lot of the stories in the collection came out of that time that I was in school.
I love that.
So yeah, it was indispensable for me. But then sometimes writers don't need that. If they have other resources where they're able to learn and to get better at their craft, maybe they don't need an official degree or an official program. I don't think having the degree itself does anything. Like, you don't need a degree to publish a book, but everything that I learned throughout is really what, like, the degree is just a piece of paper you get at the end. Although I will say, if you want to teach,
that is very different.
That really helps. I've started to teach a few programs with the incredible Porch Writers Collective in Nashville, a couple workshops with them, and they like you to have an MFA, understandably, if you're teaching other people, under their name. So that definitely helped, but just more so the experience was really, for me, really great.
Yeah, there are hundreds of writers in the history of literature that never went to school, but what I think more importantly was what we talked about is you were finishing things, you had community, and you had accountability, and all of those things help common sense be realized, and then you have confidence. And that's the most important thing. And if that's the journey that you needed, it's awesome. So, well, my friend, thank you for joining me on the Substack.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Everybody, go buy this book. Where can we buy this book?
You can find it online through my publisher at modernartistpress.com. You can also find it through my website, erinceciliathomas.com.
All right, get out of here. Go.
Thank you.
Get out of my house.